let's talk about some books that helped me on my weight loss journey. I love to read, and especially during my weight loss journey, I read a lot of books, but surprisingly, I didn't really read diet books. I had, as a kid and during my teen years, read all sorts of diet books, and the thing that I realized was it seemed like with every diet book I read, it always seemed like the diet made sense, and it just made perfect sense, the way that it worked, and that there was all this science backing it up, and yet as time went on, I realized so many of these books contradict each other. So in 2014, I kind of said, I don't really want to ever read another diet book. But what I did start to read, because my husband was in a sales career at that time, were self-help books, positive thinking type books. And I know a lot of people don't really think that they work or that they help, but they helped me. So in today's episode, I just wanted to talk about 5 books that really helped me as I was losing weight. The first book that I remember reading during this journey was Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life by Brian Tracy. And this book, the big takeaway for me, I think it did talk a little bit about spotlight syndrome, which was really helpful for me to just kind of start to understand that concept. But the big takeaway was that you can change your thinking. And I know it sounds kind of weird that I kind of didn't think you could, but I'd really gotten into some bad, negative trains of thought. And I guess at that point, I didn't even really realize that I could even change it. And it got me to think bigger about life, just about goal setting in general, and thinking in terms of ways I really could improve what was going on. The second book was Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. And again, I know, some people don't like him, but that book changed my life. The big takeaway in that book for me was about inner dialogue, just noticing my inner dialogue, first of all. It was the first book where I actually wrote down my answers to the questions in the book. Many times I had read books, just blown right through them, never did any of the exercises, and nothing ever really changed. But that book actually wrote down my answers, and it changed my thinking. One major thing that it taught me was that I could choose my emotions, that I didn't have to, just because in the past I'd let something make me feel bad, that I could actually choose to stop feeling that way about something. Another big revelation for me was when I was reading that book, I guess there was some sort of question in there about, what gives you the most pleasure during the day. And I realized that eating was the most exciting part of my day, which to me was this big red flag. And it showed me that I did need to change my eating in some fashion. In 2015, I actually read a book a week. And one of the books that I read that year was The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy. And there's one thing in particular that really stood out to me. The overarching message of the book is the small little changes that you make in your life add up. They compound over time to make these really big changes in your life, which was something that I really didn't think about. I didn't even really think it was true when I was first reading the book. I thought, no, it's got to be these big changes. The example that really struck me in that book was he compared, 2 people. One person who basically puts a lot of effort in just a short amount of time, but then quits, versus somebody who just keeps going and putting forth the effort over time. And the example he gave, to the best of my recollection, was somebody who goes to the gym. Somebody who goes to the gym hardcore and they just do these unsustainable things, versus the guy who just goes to the gym and makes small changes in his diet. And so that helped me to really put my mindset in that place of, I'm going to start doing small things and make these changes, and I'm just going to stick with them over time. Now, in January 2016, I was almost ready to give up on my weight loss journey. I had really plateaued. I was starting to regain the weight. And up until that point, I had just refused to read any books about dieting or anything like that. But I decided to read The 4-Hour Body by Tim Ferriss. Now, I decided to read that book in particular because Tim Ferriss looks at things a lot differently than most traditional people do. And I was just intrigued to see what he might have to say about weight loss, because another book of his, The 4-Hour Workweek, had really shifted my paradigm about work and earning money. So I decided, I'm going to give this a shot. And in that book, he advocates for the slow carb diet, which I tried for about 2 days and quit on it. And there was another diet that he mentioned, the Shangri-La diet, and I tried it for about 2 days before I quit on that. But in the book, as I was reading it, I realized, this guy who created the Shangri-La diet, he wasn't anybody special. He could just, he just figured out what worked for him. He just created his own plan, and it's kind of a crazy plan, but it worked for him. So I just got the idea, I could just make up my own plan, figure out something that works for me. And that was, I think, the key to my success, because I was actually able to just write down my own plan, create my own rules. And that year is when I lost the bulk of my weight. And that was also where the idea of having a weekly cheat day came into play. And then the last book that really helped me, more in the maintenance phase than anything else, was the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. And that book was really good because it showed me that, I had a fixed mindset in certain areas of my life. And one kind of belief I had about myself was that maintenance was going to be basically impossible. And luckily, I read that book right around the time I was going into maintenance mode, and I was able to keep the weight off. I realized that it was no different than anything else. I had already lost the weight, and it was just a mindset issue. I just needed to realize that I could figure maintenance out just like I figured out weight loss. These 5 books in particular have really just stuck with me over the course of time. I can still remember those little things that I learned. And so if you are looking for some books to read, I'd highly recommend these. There are lots of really good books out there. I love Brian Tracy. I love Darren Hardy. Zig Ziglar is awesome. I love all of his work. Tim Ferriss, Malcolm Gladwell. There's tons of really awesome authors, and I love their work. I've found these, positive thinking and just kind of self-help books to really be helpful. And it takes, actually trying the stuff. I'm not saying that everything works in every single book, but just an openness to it, to at least give it a shot and see how it works for you, I think is really helpful. And if you've read a book that has really helped you on your weight loss journey, leave it in the comments below. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you found it helpful. If you're currently trying to lose weight and you're just having a hard time, check out my Slow and Steady Success Academy. There you'll find a course called Intermittent Fasting for Weight Loss 101, where I take you through the entire process from start to finish and how to implement intermittent fasting successfully in your life for weight loss. The link is in the description. The all-access pass to Slow and Steady Success Academy is a monthly subscription plan that gets you access to every course that is currently available in this academy, as well as any that will become available in the future. Also, you'll get access to our private all-access pass members-only Facebook group.